Hello, bridge builders! I'm here with some exciting news. The first volume of interviews is now available on Amazon.com. The link can be found at eatlunchandboardgame.com. I promise that all proceeds from sales of this book will go right back into this podcast and channel. Whether that is new and better audio equipment for the podcast or video equipment for the YouTube channel, or even more games to review, the money will not be wasted. Click over to Amazon and get your copy of Eat Lunch and Board Game The First Course today. And thank you for supporting the show. Welcome back to Eat Lunch and Board Game. I'm your host, Adam Collins, and today I have I believe he calls himself the Chief Creative Officer of Fireside Games, Justin De Witt.
It's true. That's me.
It's one of the more interesting titles I've seen.
Right? It's used a lot in fields like ours where you make weird stuff. That's where that comes from.
I like the not designer, not founder, but creative officer, chief
Yep.
creative officer.
It's probably a good description of what I do since I have my fingers in so many pies. But yeah, if I said designer, that would imply that I'm not doing the 12 other things I do every day.
Well, there you go. It all makes sense now.
Right?
So, for people who may not know who you are, do you want to give a quick bio of who you are and what you do for the gaming community?
Yes. My name's Justin De Witt. I am, as I like to say, bigger than a bread box and made mostly out of water. Other than that, I am a board game designer as my current gig. I started Fireside Games with my wife Anne Marie back in 2008, technically, I guess it was. And we then did Fireside. I'm sorry, Castle Panic was our first game. Came out in 2009. We decided to launch the company after lots of back and forth on different things. I worked for Steve Jackson Games before that, so I had some experience in the game industry. I've been designing games basically since I was a kid, and we got to a point where it's like, hey, this castle one seems like it's got legs. We should do this. So we saved up a bunch of money, went into business, and essentially never looked back. It was kind of a hit. We hit the ground running with that one, and we've moved on. Our catalog has grown and shrunk over the years. I think at one point we had 13 games in our catalog. So,
Wow.
yeah, now I run a board game company. That is my job, and I'm still the chief creative officer, as we said, which means I'm involved in either designing or developing or reviewing any games we make, as well as all the essentially assets, things like, if it's basically a piece of art, if it's a advertisement or anything like that, I'm involved in it. I don't do all of it anymore, but I am involved. I am working with graphic designers, miniature sculptors, all that kind of
Right.
stuff. So a little bit of
Well,
everything.
that's one thing that really I didn't realize until I did the podcast on Castle and Panic. Really, was I did not realize you were the artist in that game as well.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. Like I said, I've been making games since I was a kid, but I also wanted to grow up and be an animator for Disney for a long time. And I didn't end up going that route. Instead, I went and got a dual degree in graphic design and illustration. So for years and years of making art and graphics and printing things, when it came time to make the games, like, well, I know what I want it to look like. Why don't I just draw it? And it
No,
kind of-
absolutely,
right?
absolutely. Well, that's so. I've got a company that my business partner and I started where we've made our first game, and one of the things was neither one of us had art skills.
Right.
I mean, we're both. He's an engineer. I'm a construction management major. We're both very graphic design oriented,
Hmm.
so we knew what we wanted the tiles to look like. But man, we couldn't draw a cow.
Oh, yeah.
We know we wanted 3 cows
That's good.
because that's what we needed, but we had no idea how to draw 3 cows.
Yeah. Does this look like a cow to you? No, it's more like a dog.
Yeah, we're like, hey, look at this clip art. Okay, now we need to find an artist because we can't use silhouettes in our game.
Yep. It's true. No, it's a thing. I mean, we've gone round and round. I don't do much of the art. In fact, I don't really do any of the art anymore for our games. We've found better people that can do it faster than I can, and I have other things I need to do. So it's been really fun working with some of these other artists on different projects and things. I love getting to, mash brains with other creatives. It's super fun, and we just get to meet some really neat people and make some amazing stuff. So it's an endeavor.
No, that's great. Yeah, we found an artist. I'm out of St. Louis. We found an artist through Geekway, actually.
Oh, nice.
which is where I ran into Fireside a couple years ago. You had somebody down there.
Yeah, we went
Uh,
up for it. We've only been once because we were going to go back and there was a pandemic. But yeah, that was a great
yes,
one.
yeah, I was there. I know I picked up a bunch of stuff for my Castle Panic game.
Heck yeah.
I picked up all the tabletop tower pieces I didn't already have. So,
Oh, nice. Very good.
but yeah, so I met an artist there, and he was from St. Louis, so he does love the art for us, and we work with him. He's working on getting me a new logo, if you will, for my podcast.
Nice.
So how did you get into gaming?
Well, I mean, like I said, I made games when I was a kid. I remember making my mom for her birthday a cardboard version of Stratego that fit into a little teeny tiny box, and I thought it was just the neatest thing ever. And I don't know if she was as impressed with it as I was, but it was neat. And then I started making my own games. I like to tell the story of when I was younger. I went and saw the first Tron movie, not Tron Legacy, the first one. And I came home so excited. I was like, I want to play a game with light cycles. And I begged my mom to take me to the store, and there was no light cycle game. So I went home and made one, and that kind of started the journey of a million of versions of that. Anytime I saw something I liked, I'd look for a game. Nobody was making the one I wanted, so I'd make it myself. That was all fun and games up until I was a teenager. Got into, did some role playing and stuff like that. Would make my friends play weird versions of things I was working on, and then I kind of fell in love with video games for a while. Worked on some multimedia projects professionally, and then a friend invited us over for a game night. I want to say like 2000, 2001, and we played Settlers of Catan. And I was like, "Oh, games have changed a lot." And immediately, I went home and started thinking about games in a whole new way. And I basically haven't been able to turn it off since then.
No, I agree. It's funny how many people that Catan was the gateway game, because I was
Oh
a
yeah,
big gamer. I played all the old Milton Bradley, Parker Brothers.
oh yeah,
As like to say some of the really bad IP stuff, like the Home Alone game, which didn't really make sense,
oh
but you
yeah.
played it because it was Home Alone.
What else are you gonna play?
It didn't matter if it didn't make sense, but
Yeah,
yeah. And so yeah, when I was introduced to Catan, I was like, whoa, this is not Monopoly.
yeah, yeah. This is different. This feels. Oh, I feel tingly.
Yeah. So that takes care of my question. How do you pronounce the Klaus Teuber classic? It is
Yes.
Catan.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right or
One
wrong,
of my
that's how it comes out of my face. Yep.
one of my best friends calls it Catan, and I'm like, no, no.
I hear both, and it's not as bad as the GIF GIF argument, I think, but it is definitely our version of that in the gaming industry.
It is. I love the shirt that says it's pronounced and just has the word. No how to say it, no phonetic, just it's pronounced and it says Catan on it,
You're not helping the argument. That's
Yeah,
great.
it's a great shirt.
Fantastic.
Uh, so, like I said to Joe, I hate to ask somebody what their favorite game is because I feel like, like you said, games are changing all the time. But what
hmm
is your favorite current game?
I mean that is a really hard one. Partly because of what I do for a living and how I work my time. I would say though, if I've got downtime and we're not trying to look at a new release or something like that, and I just want to play something, I still have a sweet spot for Splendor. I just love how elegant it is, how quick it plays, and how every time I play, I feel like I can do better the next time. And this is after I don't even know how many plays, and it doesn't
I
hurt my brain that much.
I always feel I can do better, and then I prove I can't every time I play.
Oh yeah, I still lose all the time, but every
Yeah,
time I'm gonna try this next time. I'm gonna do that and then switch to this next time. Yeah, and it's
yeah,
just it's one of those ones that it's not gonna take all night. Heck, we could do it twice if we wanted.
sure.
It's easy to play. I can teach anybody how to play it. It's one of those ones that just hits a real sweet spot of it's just reliable in that sense.
Yeah. So you design games, so I assume you play board games at lunch, as part of your, or maybe you just take lunch off. You play board games all day, and lunch is the one time you don't play games.
Right. Ironically, I don't play games all day. I make games all day. There's a huge difference. The hard part for me with lunch is that because I work from home, and B, I run my own company. Lunch is never the same time every day, and it's very often different lengths and things like that. Like today, I took lunch at 11:50. Yesterday, I didn't take it till 2:30 in the afternoon, and it's often. not in sync with anyone else who's here at home. Like if Anne Marie is working on something else, or she's in a meeting, I'm just eating a sandwich by myself, kind of thing. And a lot of times I'm also like wolfing down some food because I've got a meeting I got to get to, or I need to get this person some art reference or whatever. So my lunches can be 5 minutes long. They can be a half hour. It's very hard to nail down time like that. And honestly, it gets to one of the biggest issues we have of it's not about finding time for to play games in as being part of a publisher. It's making time. We have to actually set aside some time and go, look, we are gonna play this stack of new games we have this weekend, or we're gonna start Thursday afternoon and we're just gonna go through them or whatever. It's hard. It's really hard.
Get that shelf of shame sitting over there.
Oh, I had more than a shelf. Yeah, it's awful how far behind I am on stuff. And that's the other thing
Uh,
too is we try to play something new, and that means something else that's even older gets older.
right. No, I understand. That's I try to keep my shelf of shame down by
Hmm.
not buying a lot of games, and then all
Right,
of a sudden some website will have a sale, and the next thing you
right.
know, I'm explaining to my wife, no, no, these didn't all just show up today. I've had these.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is 3 deliveries that all
And
came
then
today.
but the worst part is my son will be like, "Hey, Dad, when'd you get this game?" Whoa, dude, shh, shh, shh.
You're not helping, man.
You're gonna get me in trouble, man.
Right?
Don't ask that in front of mom.
It is a, universal problem we all face, yes.
So when we started our group at work, I got turned on to tabletop with Will Wheaton,
Right?
and your game Castle Panic came up on there, and I remember watching that episode. And as soon as it was over with, I was like, "Yep, I'm getting that game."
Yay, it worked.
And I did. I went straight to the game shop and bought it, and the two expansions that were out at the time.
Nice.
Uh, the way they say, the rest is history.
Mhm.
But just, I mean, it doesn't hurt that they had a great cast of people on there playing the game.
Oh my gosh,
Um,
yeah.
but that game. So, what was the process? Did Will Wheaton approach you, or I'm just curious how that all went down?
Yeah, it was a little bit strange. So we were actually the 6th episode of Tabletop, ever, like season 1, episode 6.
Right.
And the way it worked was we had a common contact through our we work with a, fulfillment company that handles our fulfillment, and we got a call from them one day at one of our meetings we just had, and they said, "Hey, do you guys know who Will Wheaton is?" We're like, "Yeah, Will." Actually, Will was already familiar with Castle Panic. He played it at oh my gosh, I'm gonna get the was it RinCon or SaltCon? I forget which one it was. It was a convention out in Arizona where a friend of ours, Andrew Hacker, took it out there, played it with Will, and Will said it was his favorite thing at that convention. And we were already over the moon about that. That was just super cool. But this is before tabletop was a thing, and they gave us this call saying, "Hey, Will's doing this show. It's going to be on YouTube. It's all about board gaming, and they want to know if they can do an episode on Castle Panic." And we're like, "Yeah, sure, no problem. What does he need? Oh, they need
Gee,
like 6 copies or whatever." Like, yeah,
don't
no,
twist
cool.
my arm.
I know. Well, the thing is, at this point, no one knew what this was. We're like, "Oh,
Sure.
cool," but still, at the same time, we like Will. I've met him and stuff. Like, yeah, totally. How many do they need? We'll send them some stuff. Great. And then we got a call, maybe like a month later, and they're like, "Hey, so this tabletop show, Ticket to Ride was the first episode, and they're completely sold out of who knows how many thousands of units. How many do you guys have?" We're like, "A couple of thousand left," and we immediately had to go reprint. That was an amazing few.
What a
Honestly,
terrible problem,
yes,
right?
it was a terrible problem. It was a weird like year and a half though where we could not keep up with it. It was super fun and so many people either that was their introduction to gaming or their first time ever hearing about ours. So yeah, it was a phenomenal show when it came out like that. Super fun.
Yeah, I remember reading on, I believe it was the Wikipedia page for the show, they talked about how many games they had that problem. They went out of stock immediately.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
The first
and
I feel bad for the guys who were ahead of us. We had a little bit of warning. We actually could get a reprint going. It wasn't there in time. We were still ran out, but at least we knew it was coming. So
yeah, at least exactly. You had a little bit of heads up. Hey, you're about to run out of stock,
Yep.
and you're like, excellent. Let me put another order in.
Right.
No,
This will work great.
I remember when I watched the episode, it was my first introduction to a co-op game
Oh, nice.
where everybody, that whole concept of everybody working together.
Hmm.
And to me, I play anything and everything that I can play in an hour. Of course, I've got the guilty pleasures that definitely take longer than an hour. But
Sure.
so I was like, okay. But then people in my office, I don't like I'm not competitive and I don't want to get, mad at people
Mhm.
and I'm like, well, since you brought that up,
Mhm.
let me bring this game in. It's a co-op game. We're all going to work together as a team to beat the game.
Yeah, what?
And yeah, exactly. You get that look on their face like that doesn't even make sense. It's a board game. You play to win.
Right, right,
And
exactly.
I'm like, not this one. Not
Prepare
this
to
one.
have your mind blown.
Exactly. And so one of the other my other favorite times playing the game in the office was uh me and a couple of the other guys. We played it with everything. So we put the Wizard's Tower in. We put the Dark Titan and set Agnarok to the highest level,
Oh my gosh.
and we were like, "Let's do it!"
Right?
And we beat it.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not. It took us over an hour,
Oh, yeah.
and we got out of like the conference room. We were like looking around, like, has anybody noticed that we've been missing? And
Extra long
so
lunch, hard work.
yeah, so it started this whole thing between the with the three of us where we played like every co-op game on like the hardest setting. 'Cause we're
Nice.
like, and then like once you beat it, it's like, well, now what?
Yeah, right,
You
what do we
know?
do now?
But with the Wizard's Tower, you can just put different, different bosses come out. But man, it
Yeah,
was so
exactly.
funny
And you'll get
because
some randomized like you said in the episode, that sometimes the randomizers can be brutal in that
oh
game, so
jeez.
and then if
There's
you really
nothing
want
worse than to draw 3 monsters than draw 4 monsters, then, "Hey, by the way, they're all moving."
Yep, oh, and then get the Goblin King, makes you draw more monsters, yep,
Yeah,
mhm, oh, yeah,
and
no,
then
I have
maybe a good solid plague, take out,
yeah,
like, half
yeah,
your
get rid of
cards.
some of those and then, bring in the Troll Mage so everybody moves again. No, I've seen the shortest game I've ever seen of Castle Panic was 5 minutes, but that was partly because we were demoing it to a guy at Origins. This was the first or second year it was out. He did not wanna cooperate. He was just a hardcore gamer. He was an alpha gamer. He was not gonna cooperate, and his girlfriend was literally like, "You have to play this card." He's like, "No, I don't want to. I don't wanna help you guys. I'm not gonna get the points for it." And he literally wouldn't help them at all, and it was just a slaughter. It was an absolute slaughter. They had a couple of extra draws and a move, and it was over. It was like okay, and I think that was also the end of their relationship. So yeah,
Yeah, well, we had one like that, here where I set it up. We had 6 players, and everything like, the stupid die kept rolling 4 or
oh
whatever, so
god,
everything kept
hmm
coming on that wedge, and then once we kinda cleared that wedge out, then they all shifted into that same wedge, and all it takes is one little guy to get inside your castle, and it's
oh yeah,
over,
yep,
and it's
yep.
it went around the table one time, everybody gotta play one time, and that was it.
That's terrible. Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
I've
like,
seen those too. Yeah,
"Well,
where
that was
or
fun."
the boulder massacre, where somebody gets a boulder and then a draw, and there's more boulders, and all of a sudden you've lost like half your castle. Yeah, yeah, it can happen.
I still love it when you have, like, a hole in the castle, the boulder goes right through it.
Yes, the Boulder Highway, as we call it. You go straight through it, and if you're
Yes,
lucky,
there
it
you
takes monsters out on both sides if you're lucky. That's the
yeah,
best. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's the best. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yep.
But, yeah, we've played the ever living tar out of this game, and, the
Awesome.
new one, the Engines of War, man, that can be very unforgiving.
Oh yeah. You gotta be really careful in where you get your cards and the fact that you can build anything you want and you can dig for those resources, but they're gonna take up space. Yeah. That was a
Yeah,
fun one to tinker with. Yeah, putting the itty bitty little economic engine in there. A super easy to
no, it was
manage
fun.
one. Yeah. And then the keep and the what you call it, the
Siege Tower or
siege
the,
weapons. Yeah, the
encampment.
siege weapons that come in. Yeah, it's super fun. So
Yeah, those are terrible little pieces that come out, and
yes, they are. They're awful.
they sit there, and it's like, "Hey, everything's coming right here."
Yes, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, and you have no red cards. Uh,
Yep.
yeah, that happens, all too often.
Oh yes.
Uh, so what would be your favorite 30-minute go-to 30-minute game?
If I've only got that kind of time, I'm probably gonna pull out, and depending on who I'm playing with, of course, but I
Sure.
will carry around from time to time, Roll for It from, Calliope.
Oh, yes.
It's just so easy and quick, and literally, I could next to a guy on the bus and go, "Hey, I'm gonna teach you how to play this game," and it's like everyone likes it, everyone learns it. It's still challenging. I feel like I can always do a little better, maybe if I just push a little harder. So, yeah.
No, and it's a great game. We played it a lot, and actually, my mom and dad who live in Indianapolis area, they have it.
Mhm.
My sister has it. I think my brother has it,
Oh, I've
and
sold at least a dozen copies for those guys. Yeah.
oh yeah, and so we play it over Zoom.
Yeah, it's perfect for that.
Yeah, exactly. I love Roll For It. It's
Mhm.
fantastic.
Yeah, and
If
again,
you
it
had
goes back to that, like, it's just so accessible. I never have to worry about, "Oh, I don't know if they're gonna like it." It's like, everyone's gonna like it. It's colorful dice and numbers, come on.
Yeah, it's the hardcore gamers like, "It's all luck." Well,
Yeah, but where you put your stuff matters. There's still
yeah.
decisions to make. Obviously, it's a dice game. It's got random, but yeah. I don't know. To me, it's like, look, it's a game about rolling dice. You know whether you wanna play this or not.
It gives rolling dice a purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But if you had a full hour, what are you going for?
See, the hard part is with a full hour, I probably wanna pull out something new I haven't played yet to start catching up on everything going on, so I don't really have, like, a go-to. I mean, I'd pull up, right now, I would say if it was things I might try and bang out well, I could definitely do it in an hour. We've been experimenting with, Zombie Kids, it's called. It's a kids game, with legacy element to it that we're sort of looking at just because it's a neat example of how to do that. And then I've been trying to make it work, the new, Godzilla Tokyo Clash game, from Funko, but I'm struggling with that one. I'm looking for the love on that still. I need to give it a few more plays, so
Looking for the love on it. I
I mean,
like that.
it's a Godzilla game. I should really love it. I gotta just work a little harder at it, I think.
Oh, yeah. What about a hidden gem game or a guilty pleasure game?
I would say for a hidden gem, one of the ones that I bumped to, I think I got it on some kind of clearance rack, which is a terrible shame, but it's a little game called Friday. I forget the designer now, and I think Rio Grande makes it. But it's a solo game that is sort of based on the idea of what is it, His Man Friday, Jonathan, oh my gosh. Uh, I'm drawing a blank now. The guy trapped on the island, like the Lost on the Island guy. But it's essentially a really interesting twist on a deck builder where the cards that you defeat go into your deck to be used as resources later. And it's really tough. I mean, you've got to be on your game to finish it. And it's a super small box. Plays, I'd say, I think it's maybe half an hour. I'd have to look at the box, but it's very quick. It's never been one that's dragged. And there's different levels of challenging you can do to it. It's really interesting. And it's just one of the most clever solo games I've ever seen that I literally
Uh,
it's not an excuse like, well, no one's around, I'll play. No, I actually like this game. I would pick this.
You kick people out. No, no, I'm playing this
Yeah,
game.
you guys go
Go
home.
away.
I'm gonna play this one. Yeah, no, I like that one. That's definitely my go-to shelf. And then I would say guilty pleasure, only because I feel like I need to defend it, is I'd say Dominion. People give Dominion a bad name now because it's old and there's other deck builders that do more, but I will still stand by Dominion as it is some of the purest deck building you can do. It is just get these things to get these things to get these points. And I love the fact that it's just so streamlined because and that's even just playing base game, not even all expansions. I still think it has a place and it's an excellent, excellent like palette cleanser when you play one that's got 18 different rules and a bunch of pieces you have to manage. It's like, no, remember what this does when it works really smooth? It does this, and it makes you happy to make your engine work. It's
Oh
very,
yeah.
very fun.
Dominion with the whole chain, draw more, draw
Oh yeah.
more, play more.
And when
Yeah.
you make that work and it's the way you wanted it to work, you feel so smart.
Oh yeah. Well, we've got a couple people in the office that that's their game.
Oh yeah. Good, good.
And when we play with one of them, when we play with her, it's definitely who can come in second. And so we
She's
call
got first
second
nail down.
we call second place victory. You're like, "Hey, I
Yeah,
came in second,"
yeah.
and they're
That
like, "Dude, you,
that
you
sounds
didn't
fun.
win." I'm like, "Yeah, but she was playing." Like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense."
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, yeah, I don't mean to say it's any kind of like there's no reason to be ashamed of Dominion. I just know it gets a little bit of a bad rap now as being a little bit older and a little bit
I
more
think it's
simple.
because it is just a deck builder. There's no
Yes,
second mechanic around it.
right. There's nothing else
Like
it
Star
does.
Realms is, a deck builder, but you're attacking each other. There's
Yep.
another element to the game. Dominion's just a deck builder.
Right. You can throw plagues and things or whatever they're called, curses, I think. But yeah.
Curses. Oh yeah, I've got a stack of those before.
Oh yeah, but I mean that's kind of it's that's not really what the game's about. So yeah, no. So
No,
if in that sense, I feel like I will stand up and proudly defend what is a great game, no matter what people say. So there you go. That's my answer there.
no, I love Dominion. Um, so I guess I want to talk about Star Trek Panic too.
Oh okay.
Um, I'm a big Trekkie. I love Castle Panic. I love Star Trek. I was like, oh, together?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, man. The mechanics in that game are great. The way you move the ship forward, rotate it. I love the shields and the
Right.
damage and the secondary. ship that you kind of put over the other one to show it's been damaged.
Right, the blown up nasty one. Yep, yep.
Oh man, that's the only problem with that game. The only problem I have with it is it is hard to get in an hour.
Yes, it is a little longer than 60 minutes usually. Yeah, especially if you
Yeah,
take your time and try to plan, it'll slow down. Yeah.
yeah. I think we've got it in at about 75 minutes, but
Oh, that's
definitely
not
not
bad.
an hour. Yeah,
And if it's the kind of thing everyone knows what they're doing, you're like, okay, we're going to do this in an hour, you could probably do it. But yeah, the good news is I don't think it's a 2 hour game, so it's not that kind of
no,
thing.
no,
But
no. But it
yeah,
is. I love it. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun with that one. With
yeah,
like I
super
said,
fun to
just
work on.
rotating the ship is fun to like, put the shields up against where people are coming in and
hmm Get your
fly away
phasers lined
from
up
them.
in the right arc and all that. Yeah, no, that was a
Yep,
blast to work on. Yeah.
I bet. I bet that was a good one. So, did you have the idea and approach? I guess Paramount or whoever has the IP.
That one was kind of a weird situation. The way it worked is we had met some people at USAopoly. They're now called the Op, but they used to be USAopoly. Who and they were getting more and more into the hobby side of things. They weren't just doing versions of Monopoly anymore, and they were working. In fact, at the time, they had just done Munchkin Adventure Time with Steve Jackson Games, and being as how it's a small industry and everybody knows everybody, I got to talking with some people from them, and they saw that we had done Munchkin Panic, and they were said, "Hey, would you guys be interested in doing something else with your Castle Panic IP?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure. Let's talk. What do you got?" Um, and they went away. We kind of had a discussion about that, and then they came back to us with I remember it was an odd question like, "Hey, we've got something, but it wouldn't be able to use illustrations. It would have to be photographs. Are you okay with that?" It's like, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. We still didn't know what it was. Like, I don't have a problem with photographs. I mean, as long as they're good quality, let's do it. And then they came back a little later and said, okay, so it's Star Trek Panic. And my first thought was, this was right when the J.J. Abrams stuff was coming out. And I'm not a huge fan of that. I'm an old school Trekkie. And I'm like, oh, if it's the new one, I don't know. And they said, it's the 50th anniversary of the original Star Trek. I was like, done. I'm in. I'm in. Let's do this.
So
Yeah. And so the way it worked is I like to describe it as kind of an Oreo. On one side of it is us, Fireside Games with the Castle Panic brand. On the other side of the Oreo, the other chocolate cookie is CBS, who had the Star Trek stuff. And then in the middle was USAopoly. And so what happened is the USAopoly basically contracted with both of us, with CBS and Fireside Games, to make the game. So it's actually a USAopoly game. I did a bunch of the design work and then handed it over to Andrew Wolf over there, and he kind of helped polish up some things. They went through their graphics guys did all the work, and they did an amazing job on it.
no, I
And
agree.
we went back and forth on a lot of stuff, but essentially I did like the bulk of the game design, and then they did the finalization and all the prototyping and everything, made the game, and then it's their property, so they're the ones who sell it. So it was a fantastic arrangement. It worked really good. My only kind of downside to it is that because it's not something we have any stake in anymore, I can't do anything with it right now, and the license has expired. It was I think a 2-year arrangement with CBS, so um, it's just kind of it's done for now. There may be something that comes out of it later. I'll never say never in this industry, but it's essentially kind of a sort of locked IP again right now. But I will say one of the nicest things was after we showed, or after USAopoly showed CBS the near final version, the feedback we got at the time was that this was the best Star Trek game they'd ever played. They felt it encapsulated the feel of the property the best, and I thought that was an amazing compliment. I've been super happy to get.
No, I agree. I think I do enjoy it. I think you get the feel of being on the bridge and making the decisions and
hmm
like I
And
said,
everything going wrong.
shields up. Yeah. All the sparks happening at the boards,
Yes.
right?
Rocks, always rocks. Why are there always
Yeah,
rocks?
exactly. But I really enjoyed that game. I don't get it to table as often, I think, because of the over an hour.
hmm
Um, but when I can, I'd love to get it to the table.
Yeah, I
So,
have a lot of people tell me it's their favorite version of any Panic game, and I totally get it. I take that as a compliment. That's great. It
uh,
does things nothing else does. So yeah,
yeah, I mean, Castle Panic is just it's my favorite. It's my go-to on cooperative games for
right,
sure.
right.
A lot of people like to go to Pandemic, and I'm like, yeah, but your chance of winning this or very early in that game, you can make one wrong decision and the game goes downhill.
Yeah,
In Castle Panic, you can make decisions and go downhill anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
You can
See,
you
even
can
at the
make
end.
you can make the right decisions and still lose.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like
And
it's like
And they're a very different kind of experience. I mean, I love Pandemic. Pandemic is a great game, still one of my like top 5 or 10, I would say. But it is a very different feel of
yes.
the two games. They're cooperative, but they come across very different. I mean, when we made Castle Panic, at the time, I think Pandemic had just come out, like a year or two ahead of us, and then I was already in development by that time, and I was like, "Hey, there's other co-ops, yay!" But I remember the one that kind of inspired me a little bit was there were two big ones you could get that were co-op. There was Lord of the Rings from Reiner Knizia's, and then there was the what you call it, Arkham Horror. And talk about two different games. Neither of them scratched the co-op itch that we wanted to make. So when we made this thing, we knew we were going for something a little different, a different feel, a different weight. But it was really cool because we basically came in on this wave of co-ops when they were brand new, and it wasn't intentional. It's just that's what I wanted to make. So
It
yay!
just happened to be what you were already working on.
Yeah, exactly.
So real quick before I go to the Kickstarter, Kaiju Crush,
Mhm.
love it, can't win it to save my life.
Yep, it you have to be a very smart monster.
My son plays, so he's 8 now, but he's been playing chess for like 3 years.
Mm,
And the first time I played that game, I bought it. Actually, I think I bought it at Geekway.
nice.
And I remember playing with my son, and he just pummeled me. I mean, it was ugly.
I can see the
And
pattern matching stuff working well, yeah.
yeah, and so I asked him, I go, you destroyed me. Like, how did you do that? And he goes, well, I figured out that if I could get this card and I get the point every turn, as long as I kept, whatever it was to keep getting this point every
Right?
turn,
If he
you'd
holds
have
the
no
most of
chance.
whatever
Yeah.
property, yeah, 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 mhm.
He's like, you would never be able to beat me. And I'm like, and you're 6. So,
Exactly.
oh
Don't
boy.
don't you have some traffic to play in or something?
Yeah, I was like, it did, but all the movement stuff was obviously all chess related to him.
Sure.
He just starts
Yeah,
seeing all the chess moves and
there's even one that moves like a knight, which is be super easy for him,
yeah.
yeah, uh-huh.
And he's looking and right, he's like, I got down to no available moves, and he's like, I was like, man, he goes, well, yeah, Dad, if I'd have gone over here, you'd still have a move. But if I go over there, you don't. No, I can run around the board stomping all the properties.
Wow, he sounds mean to play with, yeah.
And I'm like, well, hey, I'm gonna go over here. You let me know when you're done smashing properties, and we'll
Right.
add up the score and see how just how bad you beat me.
That is his jam. Wow, he's got that
Oh
dialed in.
man. Well, I played him twice, one on one, and it hasn't gone my way either time. So I took it to
Man,
work because I was tired of losing to him. So I took it to work and I get beat there instead. So it all works out.
that's nice. Yeah, I got some variety there.
And then Remnants is another one that came out right after you guys were at Geekway.
Yep,
I pre-ordered it from my game shop,
nice.
and the simultaneous dice rolling. I mean, we have a blast with that one.
It's stressful, right?
Yeah, it is. I like that one. Oh, and then Hot Shots. I forgot that's another one we play.
Mm.
I like Hot Shots because it's like Flashpoint, but not.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Mhm.
don't have the goal's not to put out all the fire
Right.
because you would never get the fire the fire completely put out in Hot
Mhm.
Shots.
Yeah.
And so I like Hot Shots, but Remnants with the simultaneous dice rolling and the set collecting, and that's
Oh, yeah.
and the ketchup packets is my favorite aspect.
Yeah. In the future, flavor is the ultimate commodity. Yes.
Yep, and
Yeah,
I love that.
that was our fun little twist on otherwise rather dark game. Yeah. No, Remnants is a neat one. Yeah, that was a really interesting one to work on, and it's different than a lot of stuff we've done. I've had multiple people, several reviewers actually say it's their favorite game from Fireside, which is interesting because it's definitely different than a lot of our stuff. But
Yeah,
yep.
so like you said, a little bit darker,
Mhm.
but I do enjoy it. I like the people that are injured and you got to heal them,
Oh
and
yeah. Got to keep your
yeah,
crew up. Yeah, yeah. At one point in one of the early versions, you had to feed them. That turned out to not be enough fun, but it was like, yeah, there was a lot of like people management.
starving.
Yeah, they'd starve and die and stuff, and it was like, this is too much. Let's change this
I
a little.
mean, man, that might have crossed the line into too dark, but
Yeah, yeah, we made it mostly too much micromanagement was the problem. It became less fun and more like fiddly, and we're like, that's no good.
mm,
Let's get to the good stuff. So,
no,
but also, yeah, a wee bit dark.
yeah, that's a good. Remnants is fine. I mean, we love it, and like I said, it's the ketchup packets thing is always like the funniest thing because we're always
Yep.
like, how many ketchup packets do you need for this? How much is that? I'll buy that. How much ketchup packets do I get for defeating this guy?
Exactly. So
Uh,
good.
so Kickstarter earlier, well, I can't say earlier this year because it's 2021 now. You were running a deluxe edition of
Mhm.
Castle Panic
Yes, sir.
with 3D model miniatures and stuff,
Mhm.
and so you had to pause it. You decided to pause it, step back, and launch it again. Hopefully this year, right?
That's the plan. Yep.
And I was like, man, what all can I sell that my wife won't notice is gone?
So you can buy the super mega version.
Oh yeah, I mean, because all the 3D miniatures and drawing, the still drawing out of the bag, but then putting the miniature down
Right.
and the 3D castle and all that. It's just like looks so great. And
Yeah.
you paused it to step back and make all the expansions at once, right?
Yeah, that's the plan. We were originally just offering the base game, then we were going to do the expansions later, and the overwhelming outcry was, "No, we want it all." So we're like, "Okay, let's stop and make it all," and that's what I've been doing for the last year.
Yes, you've been doing a lot of Facebook Live events with
Yes.
showing the stuff off.
Right,
Yes,
showing some art, showing some minis and all that. Yeah, I am in love with these minis. The fact that they capture the new look of the game so well makes me super happy, and they're just cool.
and
So I'm
the rotating base and
yeah,
everything. Like I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
it is pretty fancy, I gotta say.
Oh yeah, I was just blown away. And then when you canceled it, I was like, I had a sigh of relief. Like, okay, I got time.
I can save up a little bit. Yep,
I got time. I can try to budget this in.
nice.
So, uh, was that your first Kickstarter you took to a
Yeah,
game?
that's the first one we've run. Yeah, we've been a traditional publisher up until then, just going through regular distribution and all that. And it made perfect sense because this is such a super deluxe high end game. It's not going to be the kind of thing we put into regular retail. Just doesn't have the
Right.
same kind of support and distribution and all that. So it makes sense that we're like basically, hey, if you want this, here's how you get it. So, and
Sure.
now it's going to be even more that way. So we do have plans for if this one does well, other things that could be happening in the future on Kickstarter. I don't know that we're ever going to be one of those companies that's only on Kickstarter, but I will say the industry has shifted to where um, basically you can't not be on Kickstarter. It is where everything is happening nowadays, and it's where all
Right.
the advertising happens. So it's really become sort of a non-option, really, to at least be there for part of your stuff.
Sure. If I could show you my bookcase I'm sitting next to, it's all these books on board games and board game design, and
Hmm.
then Jamie Stegmaier's crowdfunding strategy guide, and
Right, right,
you know, because we launched our game the first time and didn't make it, so we canceled it, stepped back,
right.
relaunched it, made it,
Nice.
and then a calamity of errors. Like
Yeah.
I, I mean, it was like when one thing went wrong, there was no stopping it.
Mm, yeah. I mean, this is a weird, weird industry. I often joke to people, it's like, if I could do it over again, I'd just go open up a donut shop because the guy who runs a donut shop does not worry about international tariffs or, trade sanctions or what the current state of ports in various nations are, things like that. It's like this is so crazy complicated of a what amounts to small niche industry. It's crazy. So, good on you for getting any success you did out of it, man.
Yeah, well, long story short, we had a production issue trying to work with a smaller guy,
Mm,
and when it didn't work out, we had to cancel that relationship and go traditionally, through China,
right.
which we had enough money to do it, and then everything, all the wheels came off because then the game now weighs more,
Oh, yeah, which means your shipping is
and
completely
then
wrong.
our
Yeah.
shipping was supposed to be like under $5, and it was like $7 to $11 depending
Yeah.
on where it was
Yeah.
going. And
And doubling your shipping costs, it usually blows a budget real bad. So
oh,
yeah.
oh yeah, I mean, and we built a lot of fluff into our number, and we're like, well, it stinks, we lost all that money, but we'll be okay. And then when it comes over, we're like, oh my gosh, now it went from like under a pound to over two, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh my
And now
gosh,
how much are you paying people to buy your game? Yeah. No, I mean, I see that happen a lot, and it's one of the things that is so crazy about Kickstarter. It is completely backwards. It is the exact opposite of how you should be building things. Like, you have to go onto Kickstarter and say, "I would like you to buy this thing. Here's how much it's going to cost to make and ship." And here's the trick. You don't actually know.
right,
You can get estimates, but you don't have hard numbers because it hasn't been made. It hasn't been put in a box and weighed, and it's crazy. It blows my mind that it works as well as it does. It seems like it should be a never-ending fail engine, but it does. It works. I have
yeah,
games on my shelf that were made on Kickstarter that I paid for that I know the creators didn't eat the lunch on, but I also know a lot of people who did not make much at all on some of even the
yeah.
bigger ones where they basically covered costs and a little bit extra. And these are ones that are, very exciting numbers and everyone's really hyped. It's like, guess what? Behind the scenes, not so pretty.
No, and that's just it. Like, we released this whole thing, to all of our backers, and because we were like, we blew our timeline, like our timeline was shot, and
Oh yeah, having to change production, I can't imagine being close to that. Yeah, yeah.
no, yeah, it was not pretty, and a whole new run and everything. So it was just one of those things where, like I said, when one thing went wrong, it just was a snowball effect.
Yeah. I can very easily see that. It's a weird business anyway, and Kickstarter is just the craziest version of it.
Yeah, it is. So I think the thing that I was just on Facebook before we got I was talking on Facebook before we started this. Um, the One of the threads I was on was talking about Game Found and if that's going to be the new Kickstarter. So
Hmm. Interesting. I mean, yeah, you never know. It won't always be Kickstarter. Everything changes. So yeah,
well, I think
I
that
can see
with
that.
Game Found, it's gonna they just had the Awakened Realms did their latest thing over there. So
Hmm. Yeah,
we'll see
yeah.
how
It
that
it,
goes.
it, it could. I mean, honestly, to me, it feels a little bit like the old what was VHS beta or wars of way back when of like somebody's going to win this fight, but then even that's going to change. No one uses
Yeah,
those formats anymore. Things will evolve. Things will
yeah.
change. Yep.
The Blu-ray HD DVD and
Yeah.
then
And now it's like,
Blu-rays are 3D and then 4K and
right, and then it's like, oh, you bought physical media? How hilariously old-fashioned of you. You don't just
yeah.
stream everything. So yeah, it's all going to keep changing and evolving and being weird. Who knows?
Exactly. So yeah, my last question was, are you a Kickstarter backer, creator, or both? And I think you answered it.
Yeah,
You
both. I've
little
I've got
both.
I've picked up a couple of gems. I have a couple of shrink wrapped, a Hall of Shame things still I got to get to, and we technically started one, and we're gonna finish it with a big bang. So
I can't wait. Do you have a projected launch date or month?
later this year for sure. Yeah, the wheels are moving. There's just a lot of bits to put together still, and a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross to make sure that it actually comes out the way we're planning. So.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. I'm very excited to get this thing launched and rolling. It's going to be super fun.
No, I can't. Like I said, I can't wait. I'm trying to figure out like how much stuff do we need to live. Do we really need a refrigerator?
Mhm. Yeah. Wait, you have 2 cars? You can only use 1, right? Yeah, it's
No,
good.
yeah. Who needs two cars?
Right, come on. That's excessive.
Yeah. Well, how can people reach out to you if they want to contact you?
Well, the easiest way to keep up with us basically is probably going to be Facebook. We're real active there. We also have a Twitter at Fireside Games. We do an Instagram, Fireside underscore Games. I can't remember why we had to do that, but we did. And then, of course, we've got our website if you want to check out stuff. We have promos we sell and bits and pieces, things like that. If you ever can't find a game, we might have it on our store. We have a newsletter you can sign up for. We just send out updates on things. It's not very spammy at all. It's mostly like, hey, we're doing this. So those are all the best ways, I would say. Yeah, firesidegames.com and all the
Oh
other
yeah,
Fireside
I just put an order in not too long ago. I got my few more of the tabletop international tabletop day towers.
Oh, nice. Very good. Very good.
I think I'm only missing one now, which is funny because it's the one that my buddy has.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah. It's
I'm
probably
like,
the 2016 one because
it
that one's
is.
gone. Yeah, that's the hard one. We ran out of that one. I think it's because it went in a promo kit of some kind. So we spent more, not spent. We put out more in a different distribution method than normal. And the problem is that is a licensed product through Geek and Sundry, so we can't reprint that the way it is. We have to do something different. So we're sort of stuck. So.
It's funny because it's the one I don't have, and it's the one that my one of my best friends it's the one he has. And I'm
Right?
like, man,
He wants to rub it in your face all the time. Sure wish you could use this, huh?
I'm like, whatever, man. I don't need it anyway.
Right? So
I
good.
could beat the game without it.
Yep.
Or I can lose the game just as easy without that one.
There you go.
Whichever one that day the day chooses there. So I want to thank you for coming on here and chatting with me.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Like I don't know if I told you this, but my son, like when I was working on the podcast, he's like, "You should do one on Castle Panic." I'm like, "Absolutely, I should." Then he's like, "You should interview him," and I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, I should." And I'm like, well, "How do I even go about doing that?" And so I'm like,
You email them. The guy says, "Sure, why not?" Right?
yeah. I was
Yep.
like, "Oh my
It is
god."
amazing how accessible some of the neatest people in our industry are. I have to say, I have bumped into all sorts of people like, wait, you're the guy who made that one thing? Oh, that's so cool. And you know what? He was like drinking a coffee because he's human and needs to, drink. And I think I was in a bathroom stall next to a designer one time. And I was like, wow, you're really human. That's great. So, yeah. So.
That's yeah. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna interview Justin De Witt, and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, see how it goes."
There you
So I
go.
want to thank you, and we'll talk to you maybe again later once your Kickstarter goes out.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to set up a time for that. Sounds good.
All right, and as always, you can follow me on Facebook or reach out to me at eatlunchandboardgame@gmail.com. And until next time, keep building those bridges.
Stay in tune with all things sports around Indiana and the nation with the Crash Course Podcast. Each week, we tackle the big storylines from the world of the Colts, Pacers, and the Indiana college scene, while also keeping a pulse on the nation. We record live weekly at twitch.tv/3C Media and can be found on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts can be heard, you can catch the Crash Course Podcast.
Average Joe's Gaming is a weekly podcast brought to you by us. I'm Joe.
I'm Tom. We talk about all things game-related. In this hour-long podcast, you'll discover what has arrived in the game room,
which Funko Pop Tom just could not resist, and maybe, if you're lucky, we might get around to talking about games.
Might.
Tune in weekly. You can find us on all of your favorite podcast formats.
When you're gaming, why not be comfy? Go over to supportplayer.org. Click on the cards, pieces, and dice to get some merch. These t-shirts are some of the most comfortable I have ever worn. That's supportplayer.org, and there's a link on eatlunchandboardgame.com.